I'm going to answer that. I want to talk now about the medical part. The device that I described is this device right here. That's the one that's being held in the hand, and that device fits in a little docking station when you're at home, so that it charges. You just drop it in and it charges. And while it's charging, it still has a lot of the features, but obviously it doesn't have the features of that you would get by physical contact with the body. But that's where the watches in the lower right-hand corner come in. Now, the watches come in two configurations. One is a watch and the other is a bracelet. And they're being designed, they are just pictures I pulled off the internet. That's not what they look like. But that's the physical size that they will be. And they will be made to any level of attractiveness that somebody wants. Now, the watches are different than this. The watches have a little transmitter that will transmit to what we call the gateway. This is the gateway. The gateway, besides doing everything else that I described, this communicates to satellites, and the satellites go back to our monitoring stations, which gets to the question that one of the two of you were asking about. The watch will communicate to this, and what it will do is it will have the ability to measure your heart rate. It will have the ability to measure your respiratory rate. It will also have the intelligence to know if you tripped and fell and all those other motion-related functions, so that if you're in a shower, for example, and you fall, you don't have to take this in with you. All you have to be doing is wearing the watch. But because it's measuring primarily physiological functions, and eventually it will measure things like blood glucose, the oxygen saturation. Matter of fact, we have a device right now that will measure the oxygen saturation of the blood. So it's going to be a very smart device. Now, to get back to your question, if you're simply wearing the gateway and it senses that you tripped and fell or something dramatic happened, then you open up the audio link and there's no response, what we do is we take a look at the motion patterns after the incident. If the motion patterns do not fit your profile, then we have a notification point. Now, a notification point means we have to make a human decision as to whether we call it an emergency and call EMS, whether we call a family member who you've designated, or what to do with it. But at that point, a decision has to be made, and that decision will be made with your participation at the time that you sign up for the device. If you're wearing this plus the watch,
I think you should hand out the surveys. Well,
I don't want to do that just when I'm close. If you get to that point, it will then take a look. Matter of fact, I think I have. Well, let me go through the slides because I think I got a little ahead of myself. What it does on the motion side is it will detect slips and falls. It can tell daily exercise. If you have a constant regime, it can tell if you're doing it. If you're supposed to be doing it and you're not doing it, it can send you a reminder. Because of its intelligence, it can tell if you aren't sleeping properly. It will know that you have a certain sleep habit, and now your sleep habit has changed. And because of that intelligence, it can infer whether you have a certain type of illness. And obviously, it can tell if you were in an automobile accident. Now, it also has the ability that I already spoke about. It has these communication things. It will tell you forecasts and email and medication reminders, stock quotes, telephone, and so forth. And it tells you it tells you where you are if you're lost or if someone has to find you. The slide that I'm looking for, I think, is right here. Now, here's a slide that's showing that yes.
Question, but I don't want to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
There's information out there now about the safety of cell phones with radioactivity. All right, this device that's going to be on you at all times, how safe is this going to
I wish I could answer that emphatically.
See, that's why I don't like things like this. I mean, my cell phone stays in the pocketbook turned off. It's only, for a flat tire or something like that. But to have a device on me at all times, which is active, how much radiation am I getting? I always think of things like that, which I know is paranoid, but that's the way my
Well, I wouldn't call it paranoid. I can give you my own opinion on it and the reason for my opinion, but it's really based on the amount of knowledge that I have, and there isn't enough knowledge out there to be definitive. My own personal opinions are that there have been no studies to definitively show that there is any relationship between the types of neurologic disorders that have been claimed and cell phones. I've spent my entire career looking at electromagnetic energy and the effects on the body, and in that entire career I've never seen anything either that I have done or I have read that points to it, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Right.
The arguments for the cell phone, if you're looking at them, even the people who are anti-cell phone for that reason say, don't do this, don't hold it up to your head, use an earphone. We're not encouraging you to hold this up to your head. This is something that can be worn around your waist or somewhere else. Does that mean that it doesn't have a hazard associated with it? You'll have to make that decision for yourself. Yeah.
I've done work in any number of nuclear power stations. Once you reach a certain age, they don't monitor you anymore for your Röntgen exposure because you have reached the age which by the time it affects you, don't worry about it.
That's
You're
very
gone.
valid.
And it doesn't have to be our age. I mean, when I got to be about 50, they stopped worrying about your exposure because unless you have a nuclear device go off, but your normal radiation exposure, you reach an age when it builds up so slowly that that's the least of your worries.
That's good to know.
Terry,
Yes.
another good thing is, say a person can't see well, and they can't use the cell phone because they can't, punch in the numbers. That would be very good too.